Hi, it's Esther Brawl here from Speak More Clearly. Welcome to the video. And I'm really grateful today that Jocelyn Priestley has been able to join us. Jocelyn is a speech pathologist who specialises in voice, and she's going today to talk to us about 3 fundamentals that underpin keeping our voice really good and efficient for presentations, for life skills, and what's even better is she's going to be demonstrating for us as well.
This video is brought to you by Speak More Clearly, helping you achieve clear speech and correct pronunciation easily.
Thank you for coming, I really appreciate it. Maybe just to start with, Jocelyn, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So I'm a speech pathologist specialising in voice for the last 26 years. In 1988, together with an ear, nose and throat surgeon, Associate Professor Havas, we started the first private voice clinic in Australia to jointly assess and treat vocal fold disorders, and we used a stroboscope, which is a special scope to look at the vibration of the vocal folds or vocal cords. And we also published a protocol for documenting and analysing what was happening with your larynx, your voice box function, and that is still used for speech pathology student training.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
I've published with other people in refereed international journals. I've lectured at tertiary institutions, places like the Australian Institute of Music, and I've lectured at the National Institute of Dramatic Art for 20 years.
Wow.
I've presented
well done.
I've presented at various conferences, ear, nose and throat conferences, speech pathology and singing conferences in Australia, New Zealand and Japan, and I run workshops for singing and voice teachers, actors, singers, and speech pathologists.
Very, very good. We have an expert here. There is no doubt about that. So my next question then, Jocelyn, is what sort of people do you work with?
I really work with anybody who has a voice disorder. I treat a lot of professional voice users, actors and singers, and teachers because they have a big load, but I also treat people who have vocal traumas, neurological disorders, transgender voice, anyone whose voice is really not functioning the way they want it to.
Which is great that you can help them.
Yes.
Yeah. So people often ask me, they say, why can't I fix my voice myself? How come I don't know how to speak like I want to or use my voice efficiently? What do you say to that?
Well, it's interesting. Voice is motor learning, and there's been lots of research and also publicity about motor learning and neuroplasticity, and voice is motor learning. Voice for speech, we set up patterns in the brain that become automatic. And if you don't like your voice, it's very hard to change those habit patterns, particularly if you don't know how to go about it. And to change a pattern, we have to set an accurate target, and then we have to practice, according to motor learning theory, practice that target a little bit, a lot. For example, in voice therapy, what I do is get people to practice the target for about up to 3 minutes, 10 times a day, more if they can.
Wow.
And that will help them establish the new pattern.
So you're changing that behaviour that way?
Changing the pattern. You can have negative motor learning, unfortunately.
Okay.
And throat clearing can be, in some circumstances, a negative pattern. You legitimately start clearing your throat and cough because you might have a chest infection and you have to bring up the mucus, and then the chest, you clear your throat lots, and then the chest infection resolves and you're left with the pattern of clearing your throat a lot. And that's not good because you bang your vocal folds together or vocal cords together and can cause some irritation.
Yeah.
Just not liking your voice doesn't make it a disordered voice. But if you have to talk when you're sick or really tired, or if you use your voice too loudly, too long, too often, you can get a husky voice. And that's a sign that your voice is stressed and you need to give it a break. In an ideal world, that's of course what we do. But we all are busy and have responsibilities, and often, unless we're really, really sick, we don't take time off, we push through. And what you do is you make your voice work under those difficult circumstances, and often you bring in inefficient compensations. If those compensations persist, they change your voice pattern. And persistent poor voice use can lead to changes in your larynx, in your vocal folds. And then, like irritation, inflammation, nodules or polyps, and then you need expert help as an ear, nose and throat surgeon and a speech pathologist specialising in voice to remedy that. We, of course, all have different vocal capabilities. It's like athletes. A sprinter can't run a marathon and vice versa. Professional voice users, particularly opera singers and Shakespearean actors, need to have special training to build up really efficient vocal skills and stamina. We can't all have great booming voices, but we can learn to have efficient voices.
Yes, no, I totally agree. That's great, isn't it? Yeah. If you haven't got that, you can be efficient at that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. And I think that's really great. And I'm interested in your comments, A, about how some people don't like the sound of their voice, and B, how anybody can learn to have an efficient voice, which is really great. And I found with my work with people, as I'm helping them to speak English more clearly, some of them have said they don't like the sound of their voice when they want to give presentations to others at work, let's say. And so because of that, I developed a program, a voice training program, which is on my website. And it just gives people a start to know where to start to be more efficient with their voice, and present well to people if they want to.
Very important.
Yes.
Today I'm not talking about treating disordered voices. I'm giving tips really to help you use your voice as well as you can.
Which is great. I agree with you though, actually, that if somebody has a voice disorder, if there's something wrong, they really need to have one-on-one treatment with a speech pathologist who specialises in the area, because it's important. Yeah. So let me ask you, what do you think are the 3 basic fundamentals of good voice maintenance and for presentation and life skills?
Well, apart from health and lifestyle issues like not smoking, adequate diet, regular exercise, enough sleep, and being well hydrated, there are lots of things that make up a good voice, but 3 basic things probably are breathing, projection and resonance. And I might talk about breathing?
Yes, that'd be great. Yeah.
Okay. Good breath is fundamental for using your voice well. What you need is good body alignment. So that means head above your shoulders, shoulders over hips, hips over knees, knees over instep. And this is, of course, the default position. We move around.
Yes.
But when you come back to sitting or standing, we should be in good alignment. Most people, when they're breathing, if they don't have respiratory problems, use low breath. And what that is, when you breathe in, your stomach comes out and your lower ribs flare out. So you go. And when you breathe out, stomach comes in and your ribs relax. When we get anxious, tense, sometimes we reverse this pattern, and when you breathe in, your stomach goes in and your chest and shoulders lift. Now, this isn't very useful for 2 reasons. You don't get as much breath, and you get tight and tense in your neck and shoulders.
So, do you have a little exercise for this? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, perhaps I should say, when we're singing and talking, you need little top-up breaths, because quite often we don't have enough time to take a big breath. So you need to take those little catch breaths down there too. So it's and a little exercise to help.
Just can I ask you, that catch breath is through your mouth, not
yes.
through your nose?
Well, it's usually when you're talking or singing, so you just take it very quickly through your mouth.
Yeah.
And the little exercise that we wanted to do was you take a good low breath in and you prolong a vowel, an R up here, and you keep it going for as long as you can on one breath. And the idea is to extend the amount of time you can make the vowel on one breath, and you get better with practice.
Mm-hmm. And that's coordinating your breath with your speech.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's fantastic. Thank you. When I've been working with people, as I help them to speak English more clearly, improve their pronunciation, that breath has been really important for them as well. Because when they know how to breathe properly and have proper breath support, they are calmer and more relaxed. And as they do that, then they can move their mouth better.
Yeah, sure.
And because learning English, if that's not your native language, and moving your mouth and clearing up your accent, means that you have to move your mouth differently from your native language. So that new motor patterning becomes easier, and you have to make less effort if you're supporting it with proper breath. So in my voice training program that I've developed, I have a whole section on breath support as well.
Good, excellent.
So that's been very helpful for people. And breath underpins, or is really important to have to support resonance as well, isn't it?
Yes. Well, breath is important for life and voice,
Yes.
and resonance is part of voice.
Yes.
But resonance itself is really fundamental. There's been lots of research by people like Tizian, Verdolini and lots of others showing how important resonance is. The rationale for resonance is very complex, maths and physics. I'm just going to give a very simple explanation so we really understand how important resonance is. So we have air energy from our lungs coming up, vibrating the closed vocal folds in our larynx or voice box, and that changes into sound energy, which is then shaped into speech and resonance by your vocal tract, which is your throat, your mouth, and sometimes your nose. Now, when that complex energy transference is in balance, you get a feeling of buzzing or vibration up in your head and face. Now, that doesn't actually add to the sound, but it's a wonderful feedback for us to know we're using our voices really well. People use all sorts of different things to try and get resonance, to teach resonance. People use humming, buzzing, trilling, blowing through straws and tubes. But today, probably it's easiest if we just use humming. So we'll do a little exercise. What I want you to do is have your mouth just gently smiling so it's wider. I want your tongue in behind your teeth and flat and wide, and I just want you to say and I want you to visualize that sound up here and feel the sound. When we talk, we should be trying to place that sound forward up here, and when you get your resonance right, it sounds richer, stronger, brighter, and it's easier to produce. It's more efficient. And people often tell me when they've got their resonance right, they feel as though they're using their lips and their tongue more.
Well, that's really interesting. You know, I like the way that you were talking about the fact that resonance helps make your mouth move. It makes you feel like your mouth is moving, and it does. And also that mouth shape you were giving us, because in my work with people to help them pronounce English more clearly, and with my programs that I have for that, what I find is that if they're from a language that doesn't move their mouth as much as it does in English, then they tend to just mumble and they don't understand how to do that, and they're not as clear. So, for example, like one of the Asian languages or Spanish, where you don't have to move your mouth as much. So this is really great because what they can be doing is practicing what you've just shown us with that mouth movement and the shape and the tongue, while they're practicing on one of the accent reduction programs that I have.
Absolutely.
And that would really improve things for them. Great. Good tip. Okay. So what is the third fundamental, please?
Well, projection. Now, I need to say that if people are talking to large groups regularly, or if they're having to supervise sport or any activity outside, they need amplification. Now, you need a microphone and a little mini megaphone, and there are lots of aerobic microphones, headphones around now. But, of course, we all still have to project our voices if you have young children every single day.
Yes.
So you need to know how to do it well. The first thing you need, of course, is breathing and being in alignment. You need to have your resonance, as we've talked about, having it nice and forward. And then when you're projecting your voice, you need to increase the pitch a little bit. Obviously that we're talking about talking, not singing. With singers who have to try and get projection, they have to stay on the pitch, and what they do is change the shape of their resonator low so they get a singer's ring.
Right.
But we're talking about talking, so so you increase your pitch a little bit, and you also have to make that resonance sharper. So if I'm talking like this, I don't have much sharpness in my voice. If I need to project my voice, you will hear that it changes. And if I need to project my voice, I increase the pitch, and you can hear that sharper. So I'll show you sharper. Now, I don't talk like that all the time, but what that helps to do is make the sound travel without having to push from your larynx. So good projection is really important for us all.
It is fantastic. Thank you for that. That's really a good tip also. So breathing and resonance and projection are used all together for good and efficient voice use. Okay.
Yes.
So do you suggest that people practice each one separately and then put them together, or practice them all together? How would you suggest they do that?
Well, if they're not having any problems, just making sure they're doing everything accurately.
Yes.
But if they're having problems with one thing, for example, you wouldn't try to project your voice if you weren't sure about, if you didn't have good breathing and if you didn't have good projection.
Right. Yeah.
So you need to go back and work on that before you can project your voice.
No, that makes sense, of course. Yes. Okay, well, that brings to the close our video for today, and thank you so much. I really appreciate you've given up your time to come.
It's a pleasure.
And I'm sure you will agree that we've got some fantastic practical tips here, and with all the demonstrations and the exercises. And again, thank you very much, and bye for now.